When you think of big names in NA, who comes to mind? Packer, JJ, Baby Shark. Today, we'll be finding out the best players for every R6 Pro League team that's played in NA. First of all, gotta shout out Garma for the video idea. He made a great video on the same idea but for CSGO. Finally, these are my opinions. So, the things I'm taking into account: achievements they've done for the team, their statistics, their performances, and also all stats will be taken from KeboGG. But if you disagree with any player I've picked, put it down in the comments. Make a comment and just tell me who you believe is better for these certain orgs. Heavy hitter first is M80. A lot of names come to mind: Spoit, Kino, Packer. But maybe there's a recency bias, and maybe this is just my bias in general, but I'm going to go Gunner. So first of all, got them the major, big major win, bringing it back to NA. He's now two-time major winner, obviously only one with M80 though, but also he was MVP for the Grand Finals. I think there is an argument for Kino just how well he's been playing up to this major win. I think obviously argument for any of the current players on the team, Diffuser, Giveni, Hot and Cold, but for me, I'm just going to edge it to Gunner because of the fact that he was the major MVP. Envy, easy one, JJ for me. Team leader, IGL, he built the team from the ground up, and I'm pretty sure I remember he had a call on overtime max point in the Challenger League final against Mr. B to get them here, to get them into Pro League. And right now he definitely feels like the face of Envy, fully Siege, for the Siege side. He feels like the face of Envy, so I've got to go JJ for me. He is the man, the myth, the legend. JJ Ballsack. It's Ivan. Yeah, it's Ivan. I'm pretty sure he's the only good player ever on Cruelty. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm just going to give it to Ivan. That's my opinion. Ivan, next. So, for Mirage, it's definitely Drebulin, Yari, No, I'm kidding. I'm going to go Dexter, just because the time he was on the org, that was the only time the org made a major, and he was their best performing player with the 1.04 rating. And he also did have a decent performance during the stage he was on the team. So for me, I'm going to go Dexter for what he did for the org, and I feel like he just had good performances as well. PB, Parabellum. It's a hard one. Obviously, there's a lot of good players that play for his org. Spirits, Gunner. Obviously, two players actually won the major with BeastCoast. Obviously, Esker, Penguin. And it will be someone from that team. It will be someone from the Tier 2 team that pushed their way into the 6th Invitational. And I'm going to go with Spirits. Obviously, the cheese meta abusing man himself. And I think he just had really good stats for them that also helped them push their way up from Tier 2 to make an ST event, to make the 6th Invitational. And yeah, for me, it's just Spirits. Team Orbit up next. A very classic team, but it has to be the legend himself. Rest in peace, Kickstar. Put up great performances every time he played, and he was the main spearhead for that team. And he's the main name you always remember when you look at Team Orbit. Next up, Disrupt Gaming. So I think three names come to mind: NJR, Iconic, and J90. For me, out of those three, I've got to pick J90. I think he was the most consistent. I think he was just the best player on that team for the team. Obviously, I think the main standout performance, he was the 4th highest rated player in the NA League in the Stage 2 of 2021 with a 1.25 rating. 4th highest rated player. That is insane for a team. I don't think they were even top 4 in the stage. I think maybe they were 6th. I can't fully remember. But yeah, gotta go J90 for Disrupt. Luminosity Gaming. So, for me, between Surf and Wi-Fi, I think both of them had good tenures. I think Wi-Fi was there for longer, so I could see that argument for Wi-Fi. He was definitely there for longer, put up great performances throughout his tenure. But I'm going to go Surf. I think Surf was their main top player when they qualified for the Esports World Cup, the biggest event Luminosity has ever qualified for. And then Surf has just shown how good of a flex player he can be both on Luminosity and now on Shopify Rebellion. And I think it has to be Surf for me. I think it's an easy one. I think it's gotta be Troy Canadian. I think probably the GOAT of NA. He lifted a hammer with Continium, and doing that while being their star player, the MVP of the event, and he brought the first ever 6 Invitationals back home to North America. XSET, top 5 at Charlotte, top 4 Berlin, their best performances, and between the 2 players that did that for them, Yoga and Diaz Lucas, I think they're the 2 players you look at for XSET specifically. I'm gonna go Diaz Lucas. I think he just edges it just a bit. I think his performances were more consistent. I think he always fragged out. And on the big stage, I think he had those top performances, always putting up the best numbers, always putting up the highest rating. And for me, yeah, it just has to be Diaz Lucas. Brazilian excellence come out from him. Wildcard up next, and I think you can make an argument for any of the current players, Dash, Spiker, Kansan, Bay, and Baby Shark. I think Dash has been a bit poor lately, so I don't think it can fully be put on Dash. Kansan and Spiker are the ones for me. I think Bay and Baby Shark are just a bit too inconsistent recently, but Spiker and Kansan are the ones that put up the most consistent performances. Kansan's definitely one you look at. He puts up the highest frags, he puts up the highest performances, and he puts up the most consistent high performances. But I'm giving it to Spiker. He puts up consistent performances. I think he's one of the best 2 players at both Reload and Munich, but he also IGLs. And he's IGLing this team to do such great performances. Like I said, top floor Reload, top floor Munich, and his attacks were sensational, especially on Skyscraper, the most defender side of map in pool. I mean, they probably did steal M80's attacks, they probably did steal M80's strats. We saw it when they went up against each other. They were very similar attacks. But still, it's hard to IGL and call on the fly like that, so for me, it is Spiker. It was a long road for this player, obviously, to get to where he has been now. Obviously, future 2 major winner. They didn't know it back then, but for me, the best player on SK Gaming, hot and cold. 2 stellar performances when he was on this team, a 1.18 and a 1.25 rating in the NA League in his only 2 stages for the team. In my opinion, that easily grants him as the Org's best player. Just a fragging demon on SK Gaming was hot and cold. SSG could be a lot of players. It could be Canadian, False, Ashen, even Rampy. I think Rampy was the MVP for their SI win of 2020. But in the end, I am picking False. He's been on the longest. He's still on the team. The legends they have had throughout the past, and I'm still picking False because he's been there throughout these legends, throughout this time. And he was there when they lifted the hammer. He is still there now, being their IGL after Forrest left. And I think he also still puts up really good performances. Obviously, you look at the most recent event, it was kind of a lackluster event. Obviously, 0-3 at Munich. But obviously, they made main stage at Atlanta. They made main stage at Montreal. They made main stage at Boston SI. So that's 3 main stage events that False have been at, and then obviously the SI win. And he's won NAL this year as well, 2nd NAL last stage. So I feel like False, that has to be him. So definitely going to tip the crown to him. For Astralis, it's between 2 players for me. You look at Iconic and you look at J90. We spoke about J90 when we were talking about Disrupt. But this time round out, I'm going to be edging it to Iconic. Just because, and like, if you look at J90, it should be him, and personally, it probably should be him because of his performances. They were always outstanding, but I cannot ever forget about the Iconic play at the Charlotte Major on Oregon. He now has a spot named after him because of that insane smoke play, the quad shotgun kill when he's just hiding in that corner. Iconic, be patient, and he was patient, got those kills, but then he also put up stellar performances at SI 2023 where he helped get Astralis a top 4 finish. And we look at the stats here, 1.15 at the Charlotte Major, being the highest rated player. Very impressive, and for me, that is Astralis' best ever player. Now, it wouldn't be too crazy to say Super for Error Eternity, but I'm not going to, because I'm not that crazy. I'm going to say Eclipse. I think Eclipse was a stand-up player for when they made the SI final of 2017, and I think he was one of their best players in terms of talent-wise as well. Obviously, later on, won a major as well, so for me, I think Eclipse just gets a nod, and I think he is a very good player as well. So there you go, best player of our eternity, Eclipse. SpaceShoobs, had to put them in. I'm a SpaceShoobs content creator, got to be biased, and I know they're not R6 NA Pro League, but yep, the title's a little bit of a lie. Obvious answer for this is JKC Allen, because obviously he's the Mormon leader, he is the IGL, and he's basically the face of SpaceShoobs. But when you look back at their big performances, I say the biggest performance is the R6 NA Challenger League, where they beat eventual winners JJ and Co. Unfortunately, then losing to not SOS, Ions, who was on Error 404, which I think was the Unks at the time. So maybe they had the worst bout, but this man clipped Stompin. He had the best clip of the year, and I've got to go with Volsper, aka Nate38, future Pro League star, no doubt, very talented player. So yeah, best SpaceShoobs player in the org's history for me. Volsper, very honorable mention though to Hyber. Great player, great content creator, so definitely shout out Hyber. Tempo Storm. Now, there's probably a big argument for creators. He was their top performing player basically at every event and was a very talented player for the org. But he isn't Dream, so based on bias alone, and it probably is creators, but based on bias alone, I'm going to be giving it to Dream. Great hardsport player, great eventual, I'm pretty sure he IGL'd OXG, and of course, Dream is sexy. Now, this player was a major winner with DarkZero. Pamba, Canadian, or NJR, which one could it be? And for me, it's Mr. DarkZero. He's still there. It is NJR, Nicholas Jr. And for me, he is just such a good player. 1.12 rating at the major, only bested by Pamba. And I think NJR just about edges Pamba for me. And not even just because Pamba's obviously recently left, recently retired. Obviously, congratulations to Rival Good Night, obviously, for joining the org. He's not there yet, but maybe Rival Good Night could eventually become the best player if he somehow brings a chip home to DarkZero again, maybe a hammer as well. But Nick Jr. has just been so impressively consistent throughout his time on DarkZero. He's always that player you look at, always that player who's going to put up those big numbers, those consistent numbers, always get like 10 kills a game, and for me, he is DarkZero's best ever player. MouseSports, another player that was on that DarkZero major winning team. I didn't mention him when speaking about DarkZero, but it's Hyper. He had a great stat line of 1.04 when he was playing under Mouse Esports for, I'm pretty sure, the only NA stage they ever played. And for me, he was the most talented player on that roster. But again, there were some other good players on his roster. For example, an honorable shout out for the SI 2017 winner, Xbox SI 2017 winner of England. But for me, again, I think Hyper just had that little bit of an edge on England in terms of the talent-wise that he had. He may have not put up better performances, but I feel like he just had that little edge of talent, whereas maybe England just put up better performances for the org. When does Bolo play? The answer is not anymore. He is sadly retired, but the legend will never be forgotten, and he is definitely the best ever player of TSM. Always put up great performances. Obviously won a hammer as well. Wasn't MVP, but he was one of their top performing players. DreamHack as well, and I feel like throughout the main NAL stages, he was always that man that put up their top performances, their top frags, and was always the person you looked at to make those round-winning plays. And of course, it's just Bolo. He's one of the greatest ever players in Rainbow Six Siege history. Honorable mentions definitely go out to the entire TSM team that won the 6 Invitationals, achieved Geo, Charla, and Merc. Merc especially, IGLing entry, achieved his MVP at the 6th Invitational of 2022. but it's got to be Bolo, the undisputed GOAT of TSM, and maybe a GOAT of Siege. Well, definitely a GOAT of Siege, but maybe the GOAT of Siege in some people's minds. Before he was coaching Bolo to lift the hammer in 2022, he was a player, and he was a really good one. I'm giving it to Pojoman. I think Pojoman was definitely the best player on Flipside Tactics. He had back-to-back NA stages where he had a 1.33 rating. That's insane to be that consistent across 2 stages and that good across 2 stages. Pojoman has to take the cake, has to take the crown for the best player of Flipside Tactics. Reciprocity is between 2 players, Foxay and Laxing. Obviously, both these 2 players helped build this org up at SI 2019 to have a third to fourth place finish. And I think both of them really have a claim to the crown, but I think it has to be Laxing. Only ever once in his time at Reciprocity did he dip below a 1.0 rating, and his highest rating was a 1.2029, and that was during the SI 2019 run, the aforementioned top 4 finish. So I could definitely hear the argument out for Foxay, but for me, it has to be Laxing, undisputed GOAT of Reciprocity. Cloud9, and again it's between Foxay and Laxing, and again it's close as it can get. Obviously, sadly no on the current C9 roster, but maybe in the future. I think Dream could definitely eventually stake his claim to the king of C9, but I've got to give it to Foxay this time, just because even though Laxing had a higher peak, his higher ever rating on C9 being a 1.56 rating at the US National 2018, but Foxay was just consistently the top rated player. So for me, it just about edges. So Laxing doesn't get a clean sweep over Foxay, but they're one apiece at the moment. So both players have their stake to claim. Obviously, Laxing just got Reciprocity, and now Foxay is the king, the GOAT, the undisputed GOAT, the best ever player to play for Cloud9. Oh, we're back again. And again, and again, it's between Foxay and it's Nua's. It's Nua's. It has to be Nua's. Like, I love Foxay, I love Laxing, but yeah, it's Nua's. Like, Nua's was insane. As soon as he joined XG, you could see the talent was there. You could see he was going to become one of NA's best entry fraggers. And I think he really solidified that at SI 2023. Obviously, the one that G2 eventually won. But what Nua's did for XG was insane. A team that didn't look very competitive at the start. I don't think many people had on their crossboards that OXG would make a deep run. I don't think many people thought through their predictions that OXG would have that great run, that deep run, but I think it was very much fueled off New Crew, off Nua's, and I think he's the man that boosted their momentum to take a top 4 finish, a top 3 finish, 3rd place at the event in the end, and he had a 1.28 rating. Insane from the debutant at his first ever SI as well. So for me, it just has to be Nua's. Obey Alliance, we're going back in the past. We're going a little bit retro with this one. It's Skies. And for me, it just has to be him. He got Obey to an international event, their first and their only international event being the 6th Major Paris. And for me, he balled out of that event, having a 1.26 rating and being a top 10 player at the event on, let's be honest, a weaker team than a lot of the teams there was. You had your G2, you had your Evil Geniuses, you had your Secrets at the time, who also were having a very good deep run at that event. So, yeah, I feel like it has to be Skies, especially with the fact that he never even dipped below a 1.08 rating for the org. He was just consistently solid, put up the numbers, put up the frags. I think he was just a really good player for them. So for me, Skies is Obey Alliance's best ever player. Evil Genius, he's back, the two-time hammer lifter, the GOAT himself. He didn't actually lift a trophy on this org, but not many people did. I don't think anyone actually did. It's Evil Genius, second place at SI 2019, second behind Penta. Obviously, there was that famous reverse sweep where Pengu just came back from behind. Well, Pengu and Penta came back from behind to take the series. Monty pushing their way through. But one Canadian right here, he put up great numbers throughout his career for Evil Genius, the leader, the IGL, the GOAT himself, and I think it can't be anyone else. Obviously, 2 second place finishes is going to be harsh, but at least he got there. He was still a player that kept thriving, kept pushing himself harder and harder, and he was always the man putting up good numbers. He was a little bit inconsistent, but I feel like at the international events is where he really showed the world that he is a top player. Now, want to counter logic. It's between Skies, Shuttle, and again, Laxing. I'm going to just edge it towards Skies. Again, he's back mainly because at the one big event they played at, 2018 6 Invitationals, he performed under lights again. Just like he did at the 6 Major Pass, he was performing lights out with a 1.21 rating, and then it wasn't even too bad in the regular pro stage. I think he had like a 0.98. I think decent player, no doubt, and I think he definitely deserves the GOAT of counter logic. Skies, back-to-back GOATs. Well, not back-to-back, but 2 GOATs between 2 orgs. Who would have seen that coming? Skies, very well done. BeastCoast, the fairy tale in Manchester, so of course it has to be Mr. B. No, but for real, it's FET, because FET has a 100% win rate with BeastCoast. No, but for real, it has to be someone from that Manchester major winning team. Obviously, FET was on it, but as the coach, we're looking at the best player of all time for each org. So between Gunner, Gavin, Spirits, Hot and Cold, and Diffuser. Diffuser had a great rookie stage in the opening stage, and I think he carried on his performances throughout other stages. Gavin, always consistent for them. Spirits, the Shield Cheese player. Hot Cold, the IGL. But I feel like it can only be one person. MVP in the Manchester Major Final. He also had that insane semi-final game against FaZe where he just floated. We saw the new spot on Cafe, the Gunner spot, where he just hide behind the couch, wait for that plant to go down. He had 2 clutches like that where he just killed the plant and stopped it and won it by time. And then obviously the grand final broke the BO5 kill record in the grand final. 63 kills, destroyed it. Again, Gunner, he had a matey earlier, but now he has BeastCoast. MVP for him. It's between Grixer and Rexon. In reality, I think they're the 2 players that performed the best for Sonic consistently, and they were on the org for the longest time, I'm pretty sure. So, definitely then, I wouldn't even see any problem with going either of them. At first, I actually had Rexon written down. I had Rexon down as the undisputed GOAT of Sonics, but I changed it. I changed it to Grixer, and I think the main reason why, because he just performed better at the international events. He performed better under the lights. For me, he was more consistent as well throughout the regular stages, and for the big events, he just had those great stat lines. A 1.42 at SI 2020, a 1.32 at Berlin, a 1.19 at Atlanta. Just insane stat lines for Grixon. I think he was just the most consistent player for that org at that time. Obviously, neither player were able to win anything with that org, but Rexon could change that with Shopify Rebellion. But for me right now, Grixer, or forever Grixer, is the undisputed GOAT of Sonics in Rainbow Six Siege NA. But for this team, it is Rexon. And my opinion is a little bit different, because Grixer was more consistent on Eunited than Rexon. But Rexon's highs on this team were just so goddamn high, Grixer could never reach it. Rexon reached the highest rating for Eunited of 1.15. No other player on Eunited ever reached that peak. So Rexon definitely gets the crown of the GOAT of Eunited and the GOAT of that org. So he takes this crown and was nearly close to taking the Soniq's crown. But for me, Rexon just takes it because he achieved the highest peak for this org. Now, for the final team, NA's current super team. Rexon, Surf, Spoit, Ambi, and the GOAT of NA Siege, Troy Canadian, who has been SR's best player in the year or so that they've been established. It's very, very hard to pick from, and I think you could go of 4 people, maybe obviously Canadian's the IGL, so he's the one that calls the shots, does all of the leadership on that team. Then you have Surf, who's kind of been the dark horse of the team, always picking up those kills, making those clutches, making those big plays. And then you also have Rexon, who again was just spoken about how consistently good of a player he is. And especially, there's another thing I need to say about Rexon. The fact he is deaf in one ear and can still play this well at such a high level, just insanity. But then you have the 2 players that I've narrowed it down to. In my opinion, it is between Spoit, the Swedish savior, and then Ambi, America's golden child, the golden boy. So for me, I have to give it to Ambi. I know, crazy to say, and I think this is the one that will get me a lot of shtick, honestly. The fact I've picked Ambi over Spoit, but for me, just more consistent. I think for Shopify Rebellion, Ambi has been the guy, the man that always you look at to go for those big events. And I think at both SI 2025 and at the Munich Major, he was that guy. A 1.21 at both events, and he was just consistently the man that had Shopify on his back to keep them alive at both tournaments, to keep them chugging along. Unfortunately, they didn't win either, but that team is so stacked. They definitely will be winning an event soon enough, but there it is. Shopify Rebellion, MVP, and B. That was my list. And also, I'm working on another. I'm working on the same video I did, but for EU, for Brazil, and even APAC, and maybe T2. So, drop some support down below. Drop some comments to say if you agree or disagree. Like the video if you want to see another type of this video for the other regions. And maybe after the other regions are done, I may even think about making the video for the worst players for each org, but let me know if you want that, guys. So again, if you enjoyed it, subscribe and comment and like. Thank you very much.